What if staying home isn't about being antisocial, but about being mentally advanced? In a world that celebrates constant social activity and packed calendars, there's a group of people who find fulfillment in solitude. They're not lonely, they're not avoiding life, they're doing something their brains naturally crave. Psychology reveals these individuals might actually be demonstrating signs of higher intelligence and deeper emotional awareness. What's really happening in their minds? If someone prefers quiet evenings at home over crowded social events, psychology and neuroscience reveal this isn't a flaw. It's often a feature of how intelligent minds operate. In this video, discover 7 psychological traits that explain why smart people frequently choose solitude over socializing. These aren't signs of weakness or social inadequacy. They're markers of cognitive depth, emotional intelligence, and mental efficiency. Stay till the end. The last insight reveals why this preference might actually predict long-term success. Intelligent individuals often display what psychologists call social cost-benefit analysis. Their brains naturally evaluate whether social interactions provide meaningful intellectual or emotional returns. Research shows that people with higher cognitive abilities experience less satisfaction from frequent socializing compared to the general population. This isn't snobbery, it's neural efficiency. Their minds are wired to seek depth over breadth in relationships. Casual small talk about weather or gossip activates minimal reward centers in their brains, while meaningful conversations about ideas, problems, or deep topics trigger significant dopamine responses. If someone rarely goes out but maintains a few profound friendships, their brain is actually optimizing for quality connections that provide real cognitive stimulation. They're not avoiding people, they're avoiding shallow interactions that drain mental resources without offering substantial value. Here's something most people miss. Intelligence often correlates with sensory sensitivity. Neurological studies indicate that individuals with higher IQs frequently process environmental stimuli more intensely. Crowded bars, loud restaurants, and bustling social venues aren't just uncomfortable, they're cognitively overwhelming. Their nervous systems register sounds, lights, and social cues with amplified intensity, creating what researchers call sensory overload. Think of it like having the volume turned up on every input. Where others hear background noise, they hear distinct conversations, music lyrics, and environmental sounds all competing for attention. This heightened awareness, while beneficial for pattern recognition and analytical thinking, makes typical social environments genuinely exhausting. If someone prefers staying in, they might be protecting their mental bandwidth from excessive stimulation. Their brain isn't defective, it's actually processing more information than average. Psychology reveals that highly intelligent people develop an almost addictive relationship with flow states, those periods of complete absorption in mentally engaging activities. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's research shows that flow experiences require uninterrupted focus and specific environmental conditions. Going out disrupts this. When someone's brain is wired for deep cognitive work, whether that's reading complex material, solving problems, creating art, or analyzing systems, social obligations become interruptions to their most fulfilling mental states. It's not that they dislike people. Their brains have discovered something more rewarding than casual socializing. Studies indicate that individuals with higher intelligence report greater life satisfaction from intellectual pursuits than from social activities. If someone cancels plans to stay home with a book or project, they're not being antisocial. They're choosing an activity that produces genuine psychological fulfillment over one that society expects them to enjoy. Here's what's fascinating. Intelligent minds naturally simulate future scenarios with remarkable detail. Cognitive psychology calls this prospective cognition, and it changes how people evaluate going out. Before accepting an invitation, their brains automatically run simulations: the energy expenditure, the quality of conversations, the recovery time needed afterward, the opportunity cost of activities they'd rather pursue. This isn't overthinking, it's predictive processing. Research from behavioral economics shows that people with stronger analytical abilities make decisions by calculating expected value, even in social situations. They're not pessimistic, they're realistic. If past experiences showed that most social events provide minimal reward, their brains logically conclude that staying home offers better returns. This forward thinking actually demonstrates executive function and self-awareness. They know what genuinely fulfills them and structure their lives accordingly, even when it contradicts social norms. Psychology distinguishes between intrinsic motivation, doing things for internal satisfaction, and extrinsic motivation, doing things for external validation. Intelligent individuals typically operate from intrinsic motivation centers. They don't need social approval to feel valuable because their sense of worth comes from internal achievements, learning, and personal growth. Going out is often driven by external factors, being seen, maintaining appearances, avoiding judgment for staying in. But when someone's brain derives satisfaction from internal sources, these external pressures lose power. Studies indicate that higher intelligence correlates with lower susceptibility to social pressure and conformity. If someone rarely goes out despite social expectations, their self-worth isn't dependent on external validation. This actually shows psychological maturity and authentic self-knowledge. They've figured out what genuinely matters to them instead of living according to someone else's definition of a fulfilling life. Neuroscience reveals something critical about how intelligent minds process emotions. People with higher cognitive abilities often experience emotions with greater intensity and complexity. They don't just feel happy or sad, they experience layered emotional states that require processing time. Solitude isn't avoidance, it's essential emotional regulation. Research in effective neuroscience shows that alone time allows the prefrontal cortex to integrate emotional experiences, analyze social interactions, and restore emotional equilibrium. Constant socialization prevents this integration process. If someone needs significant time alone after social events, their emotional processing system requires recovery time. This isn't weakness, it's depth. Their brains are doing sophisticated emotional work that shallow processors skip entirely. They're not running from feelings, they're giving their emotions the analytical attention they deserve, which actually leads to better emotional intelligence and self-awareness over time. Here's something deeper. Psychological research consistently shows that intelligence correlates with valuing autonomy. Smart people crave control over their time, environment, and choices. Social obligations inherently limit autonomy. They require coordinating schedules, compromising on venues, adapting to group dynamics, and following social scripts. For minds that treasure independence, this feels restrictive. Studies from personality psychology indicate that individuals with higher IQs score significantly higher on autonomy needs. They don't want to be told when to arrive, when to leave, what to wear, or how to behave. Staying home preserves their freedom to structure time according to their preferences. If someone consistently chooses solitude, they're demonstrating a core trait of intellectual independence, the refusal to let external expectations dictate their life choices. This autonomy isn't selfishness, it's self-determination, and it's strongly associated with life satisfaction in intelligent populations. But here's what most people miss about intelligent people who stay in. They're not lazy, they're strategic. Cognitive science shows that mental work is genuinely exhausting. Thinking deeply depletes glucose in the brain and requires substantial recovery. People who engage in complex cognitive tasks throughout the day have legitimate reasons for conserving social energy. Going out after intense mental work isn't relaxing for them, it's additional labor. Their brains must navigate social cues, maintain conversations, suppress authentic reactions, and monitor their behavior, all while cognitively depleted. Research on decision fatigue reveals that every choice and social interaction drains finite mental resources. If someone with demanding intellectual work chooses to stay home, they're practicing intelligent energy management. They understand their cognitive limits and protect their mental resources for activities that truly matter. This isn't antisocial behavior, it's strategic life design. Psychology reveals a challenging reality for intelligent people. Most social environments aren't designed for them. Typical conversations focus on surface-level topics, entertainment, gossip, complaints, small talk, that fail to engage higher cognitive functions. For minds that crave intellectual stimulation, these interactions feel empty. It's not arrogance, it's genuine incompatibility between what their brains need and what typical socializing provides.
Research in social psychology shows that individuals with higher intelligence report feeling isolated even in crowded social settings because the conversation depth doesn't match their cognitive needs. They're not judging others, they're experiencing a mismatch between their intellectual requirements and what's available. If someone prefers staying home with books, documentaries, or complex projects, they've found more reliable sources of mental stimulation than random social events. They're feeding their minds properly instead of accepting intellectual malnourishment just to appear social. Here's the final insight, and it might surprise you. Intelligent people who rarely go out have often achieved something many spend lifetimes pursuing. They've learned to generate happiness internally. Positive psychology research indicates that the ability to find fulfillment without constant external stimulation is actually a marker of psychological maturity and well-being. They've cultivated rich internal lives, complex thoughts, creative pursuits, deep learning that